Today in the pedal vault, the TC Electronic Mimiq. So here we have the Mimiq. It's from TC Electronic, and I already reviewed the mini Mimiq, and well, spoiler alert, I wasn't pleased with the pedal. I actually sold it, so I don't have it anymore. But this, people claim that this is better. So let's find out what it does have. We have a stereo input that's really uncommon for guitar effect pedals. And we have a stereo output. And this is basically because the manual claims that you should put this last in the signal chain. And if you happen to have a stereo signal, because with a delay or a reverb or chorus or whatever, you can actually retain this signal. Okay, as far as controls go, we have 3 knobs, 1 switch, and effect lets you select how much of the doubled effect you want to have, dry how much of the clean unaffected signal, and tightness lets you basically select how tight the doubling is. And still not sure how this works. I always leave it at 12 o'clock, but I think if you go further clockwise it makes it more tight. And here you can select the amount of dubs you want to have. So do you want 1 dub, or do you want 2 dubs, or do you want to go with 3 dubs? What the Mimiq doesn't do is split the signal in the output, and that's very important to know, because for some of you this might be a deal breaker. So if we basically select 1 dub, and now you could think, well, okay, this output outputs the dry signal and this outputs the affected signal. And that's not the case. Both outputs output the exact same signal. So if you want to have a totally separated dubbed signal, you have to use a splitter before going into the Mimiq. What I would do if I were totally analog and I wanted to have a totally splitted signal, maybe I want to have a fake second guitar player, I actually would use my AB splitter here, go from my guitar directly into the input, or maybe a wah pedal and then into the input, and from there with output 1 I would go to my rig 1, whatever amp and effect pedals and cab, whatever, and from output 2 I would go to the mono input, then no dry, totally wet 1 dub, and then from there to my second rig with my second cab, effect pedals and amp. And yeah, that's how the Mimiq is supposed to work. For the audio comparison, I'm showing you 4 different setups. The first one is the setup that TC Electronic actually suggests. It's a mono setup with the TC Electronic as the last pedal of the chain directly between amp and cab. The second setup is also a mono setup, but this time the TC Electronic is actually the first pedal in the chain. And 3 and 4 are stereo setups. The third one is again with it in the last chain. So we're doing 2 complete and independent stereo rigs, and then 1 rig goes in here on the mono input and the other rig goes in this input, and they output two different cabs. And the fourth setup is with TC Electronic Mimiq in the first chain. So guitar goes straight into here, and then here it goes to 1 stereo rig and 1 mono rig, and here it goes to the second mono rig. So this pedal is really a weird pedal because it doesn't behave as is advertised. It is clearly advertised as a solution that works in mono, and nope, it doesn't. And also it's advertised that when you put your guitar mono in and then you go stereo out, that you don't have actual independent control of the effects and dry signal. For instance, I really thought it was really clever to go here with the dry out and here with the effect out, and the manual clearly states that it does not behave like this. However, it does, and well, that's strange, but let's start from the beginning. Brutally honest here, this pedal is not designed to work in a mono environment. It just doesn't sound good. It sounds phasey and you don't have fun with it. So deal with it. If you just have a mono setup, for whatever reason, nope, not going to work. That's the reason why the mini Mimiq Doubler, which I also reviewed, was such a bad pedal, because it basically just has a mono output, so it always sounds weird unless you do some really weird setup with an AB box or whatsoever. But in a normal environment or normal rig, nope. Okay, this one does things good. And it does things good that with the mini Mimiq, when you crank both knobs, you were at unison sound. And now here it's actually when you turn the dry full up, you have union with the dry. So this setup basically makes no effect in change in volume. And this one as well, but now it's the a wet signal, of course. So that's a plus, because with the mini Mimiq you always lost volume, always. There was no turnaround or no workaround to not lose volume with the pedal alone. Okay, that's improvement. The stereo outputs are high improvement, can't say it enough. So this is the way to go if you wanna go Mimiq. Don't buy the mini Mimiq. Next thing, I told you it doesn't work in a mono situation. It doesn't work when you want to have more than one dub. So with 2 dubs, 3 dubs, just sounds bad, in my opinion. And that's speaking for metal. Okay, so, and another weird thing, I found out that you can actually control the signals independently when you go mono in and stereo out. When you have 1 dub, when you have 2 dubs, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. It was really weird. And another weird thing is when you basically wanna mute the dry signal, for instance, just with the pedal. So you're going this way, and then you go stereo out. Occasionally, some signal is coming through. So there are some hiccups and noises, and when you actually have the dry totally down, same as with the effect signal. So if you have this down and this, and you play it, occasionally there is some signal coming through. I don't think this is such a big deal, because you wouldn't dial it in like this in an actual band setting, but just good to know. So yeah, final verdict. This pedal works. 2 different environments, if you ask me. One studio environment, when you're reamping and you don't want to record a second guitar. Then you use the trick that Christian Kohle did, and I haven't shown you because he already did an awesome video, so there it works too. In a live situation, it works as first pedal, and then you go to 2 independent chains. You have very specific wound up, tightness, well, I mostly leave it at noon, and dry effect full, you dial in your tones, you're good to go. Hard pan right, hard pan left, works. Those are the 2 settings that do work in my opinion. I might do a follow-up video on how to use it in a recording without the Christian Kohle reamping trick, or actually it's not from Christian Kohle, he just published it. Maybe some additional tricks are there, but that's my opinion. So, really much talking here, and now what do you think? Do you own the Mimiq, or have you owned it? If you have, why have you sold it? And do you own the mini Mimiq? And if so, sell it. Just leave a comment down below in the comment section. Well, and if you want support for this channel, check out the links in the description. And with this said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, check out my Instagram. May the force be with you, and have a nice day.